Who doesn't remember the good old 100 ampere hour lithium iron phosphate battery here? We have done millions and millions of tests with it, charging, discharging in all kind of variations. I picked a 100 ampere hour battery because it was easy to calculate. 67 ampere hours is 67% state of charge. But then unfortunately this battery had 109 ampere hours, so we had to do the calculation again. And then further development to the EVE LF280 280K. This was a big milestone, 860 watt-hours per cell. Incredible. And then only a bit over a year later we had the MB31 cell with over 1 kilowatt-hour of usable capacity. Yeah, well, and now we have the EVE MB56. This is a monster of a cell, 628 ampere hours and over 2 kilowatt hours of storage. And I've ordered this battery from the Hakadi Battery Supermarket. Yeah, and they shipped me a single cell immediately. They had stock, so we can do some testing here in the off-grid garage. Seeing this one in person now, it is a monster. And this is only the battery evolution from the last 2.5–3 years. Incredible. So the Hakadi Battery Supermarket is an online seller, an authorized certified EVE reseller, and they also have other battery brands on their website like CATL, Kelp, Lishan and Goshen. All sort and all kind of cylindrical and prismatic cells. They also have do-it-yourself battery boxes, including the Seplos BMS with and without breakers, and also semi-solid prismatic cells, with being capable of doing 12,000 cycles. So thank you very much to the Hakadi Battery Supermarket for sending over the EVE MB56 so quickly. They were the first. They were the first to offer and to send it. And here it is on my workbench from the Hakadi Battery Supermarket. Thank you very much. They were pretty keen to send some batteries over here for testing and showing here on the channel. I've never ordered in their shop before, so I don't know what the quality is, the service is like. So if you have ordered from the Hakadi Battery Supermarket, please leave your comments down below and share some thoughts. Let us know what your experience was. Because I don't know what their reputation is, so I'm keen to read your comments. Guys, welcome back to the off-grid garage here in sunny hot Australia. We've got 32% state of charge and 1.6 amps outside. No, what? You don't believe me? There you go, late afternoon, sunny, hot, 32% state of charge and 8.8 amps. Okay, I lied to you. Sorry. And of course, we want to do some testing with the MB56 cell capacity test. And to start this off, we want to have a look at the size actually. So I've got two MB31 cells here and we put them next to each other so we can see the exact dimensions. And I cannot see any significant difference in the height. You can see though the MB56 is about 4 millimeters longer than two MB31 cells. And let's put them next to each other. Nah, thickness is exactly 100% the same. Okay, what about the weight? This is the MB56, 11.3 kilograms. And let's weigh both MB31 cells. 11.1 kilograms. So the MB56 cell is a tiny bit wider and a tiny bit heavier than two MB31 cells. Yeah, and here at the top we have to have an MB31 as comparison. Look at these tiny terminals, and these ones are huge. Look at these ones here, 45 millimeters. While these ones of the MB31 are not even 25 millimeters. Yeah, the safety valve is a lot larger on the MB56 than on the MB31. We've got the QR code which we will scan in a moment, but apart from that, it's not too much different. But these terminals are ginormous. Yeah, and from the outside the cell looks really nice. It is well manufactured, has no dents, no scratches, absolutely flat. It has a tiny belly here, but this is just normal. It is the same with these cells. They are not 100% flat. There's always a bit of a dent or a belly, and this is exactly what we can see here as well. And while we got the MB56 and the MB31 here on the side, we want to have a look at the bottom, and we can see that this MB56 cell has no black material at the bottom, but it seems like the black plastic material has been ripped off. I need to ask Hakadi Battery Supermarket what the deal with that is. Because usually they have this black plastic material here at the bottom, and now we have even exposed material here of the battery case, which is the positive. So measuring here at the case and here at the negative. Oh, that's interesting actually, because it looks like the MB56 is a bit different and the actual battery case is not the same as the positive terminal, because when I measure against the negative, we have 2.66 volts. When I measure against the positive, we have 0.64 volts. So it is something in between. But I'm sure these batteries have usually this black plastic sheet at the bottom, but for some reason it is missing with this battery here. I'll find out. Okay, let's scan the QR code. Oh, it has already scanned it. Wow, that was quick. EVE power 04Q. It's a cell lithium iron phosphate B. That doesn't mean it's B grade quality. B means, I have forgotten. Someone mentioned it actually in the comments. It doesn't mean it's a B grade. They all have the B in brackets behind the lithium iron phosphate. It has something to do with the chemistry inside this cell, but it doesn't mean it is a B grade battery. Yeah. Model code is the MB56, 628 ampere hours and 2009.6 watt hours. This one is produced mid of December 2024. So it's already over 6 months old. And interesting here is numbers of cell produced 0. So this was obviously one of the first ones they ever produced and then made available as samples. Wow, that is interesting. And of course the MB56 comes from the good old Jingmen factory in China. So very quick look at the specifications of this MB56 cell again. We have done this in a previous video already, so I'm not going through all these specifications again. So we have a nominal capacity of 628 ampere hours. 2009.6 watt hours rated. I'm sure we're getting a bit more out of this cell. 3.2 volts, 3.65 volts maximum cell voltage, end of discharging 2.5 volts, and the standard charging and discharging power is 0.5P or 0.5C. Internal resistance 0.1 milliohms. If you wonder how the MB31 compares to that, so the specifications say 0.18 milliohms. So it looks like we have an even lower internal resistance with this MB56 cell here. That is crazy. Here's the weight with 11.5 kilograms. Dimensions with and without terminal. And they are stating 8,000 cycles until the cell reaches 70% state of health. Gott, wo ist es denn jetzt hier? Appendix 115. And if you want to know how they test the cycles, it is explained here. They're discharging the battery down to 2.5 volts, then recharging the battery all the way up to 3.65 volts. Wait for 30 minutes. And repeat. And if you do this for 8,000 times, the battery has still 70% of its capacity left. So if you do a full cycle every single day, this is 21.97 years. So I don't know why I'm still reading comments and getting emails from people who are trying to charge these batteries only to 80%. There is no reason for doing that. And we are already very gentle with these batteries because we charge them only to 3.45 volts and let them absorb. And this gives you almost 100% of the rated capacity for your cell. So here, 22 years. What else do you want? And we want to very quickly measure the internal resistance of all these different batteries and see what the difference is. So first one is the 100 ampere hour battery we have used for testing. And this one has an internal resistance of 0.33 milliohms. Next one is the LF280K. This one is from March 2022. And we have an internal resistance of 0.23 milliohms only. Next one is the MB31. Internal resistance is very similar to the LF280K, 0.24 milliohms. And now let's measure the MB56 cell. And we have an internal resistance here of only 0.13 milliohms. Of course, the internal resistance is a bit depending on the state of charge of these batteries, and they are not equally charged at the moment. But still, it gives you a bit of an indication what the difference in internal resistance of all these cells is. And I was wondering if we can put these MB56 cells into our usual do-it-yourself cases to make a 24-volt battery. Because 8 of these cells have the same dimensions as 16 of these cells. So we should be able to build a 24-volt battery in one of these cases. But I just had a look at all my battery cases here. Unfortunately, well, I think it's good. All of these cases have a frame in between the battery rows. Yeah, basically, in between these two rows, there is part of the frame, and this gives the whole box more stability and also gives us a equal compression because we have more mounting points for this compression plate. Seplos, EVE, Yishiyang, they all have this middle divider. But of course you can still use any of the do-it-yourself battery boxes to build a 24-volt battery. Installing 16 batteries and having 2 cells in parallel. Building a 2P8S battery. 24 volt, same capacity. Obviously you need to make your own bus bars then, and also have to replace the BMS to make it 24 volt compatible. But it is possible to use any of these cases to build a 24 volt battery. Alright my friends, enough with this theoretical stuff. Let's connect this battery, do a capacity test and crunch some numbers. And I'm really keen to see how much ampere hours and watt hours we get out of one MB56 cell. Okay, I have now connected the ZKETech EBC A40L, or the big Chinese cracker as we call it. It is an amazing battery cell tester, 40 amps charging, 40 amps discharging, and the main feature is it can be connected to a computer and collects all the curves, all the data, all the information you ever wanted. We have used this for the last 4 years here in the Off-Grid Garage. There's a ton of data available on my website. You can download the software for the tester and import the data to look at curves, to look at data. You don't need to have the tester. You don't have to own the tester to look at the data. All the links are down under the video. Ah, the good old EV tester software. Amazing. We haven't used this for a while. I'm really missing the good old times when we did a lot of battery and cell testing here, had a look at the curves and analyzed everything. That was an amazing time. And we learned a ton about lithium iron phosphate batteries. And we are actually going to repeat this here on the channel very soon, thanks to the Hakadi Battery Supermarket. I don't want to spoil too much of it, but stay tuned. Okay, first of all, we want to connect this to our COM7 port. We can see the cell voltage here, 3.292 volts. And the first thing, of course, is fully charging the battery with 40 amps to 3.65 volts with a cutoff of 0.05 C. And now we have to do the calculation here. 628 times 0.05. 31.4 amps. This is our cutoff. And then the battery cell is considered to be fully charged. 31.4 amps. Right. Of course it doesn't work with the A in there. All right, here we go. First time charging an MB56 cell here in the Off-Grid Garage. Amazing. This could actually take a while, depending on how full this battery already is. I have no idea. 628. So if this cell is pre-charged to around 30% state of charge, it will take around 11 hours to fully charge it now. So it will be tomorrow morning, and then we can do a full discharge from all the way from 3.65 all the way down to 2.5 and have the nice curve here on the screen and can see how it looks like if there's anything changed. I'm not expecting it, apart from it will be very, very long. 628 ampere hours divided by 40 amps. So a full charge or discharge takes 15.7 hours. Wow. Yeah, that's right. It's exactly twice as long as for the MB31, right? All right, my friends, there it is. MB56 charging here with a Chinese cracker. Nice. And we have to have an MB31 next to it just to make us aware of the size of this huge cell here. It is really incredible. Alright peeps, I guess you have a wonderful afternoon, evening, and have a good night's sleep. And we see us again tomorrow morning with the result. No, actually with the start of the discharge test then.
The next day.
The battery is now fully charged. Look at this amazing charge curve, flat, flat, flat. Then here right at the end at 3.42 volts, 4.3. This is when it gets interesting. And then we are fully charged at 3.65 volts. And there was almost no absorption time. Look at this. If I zoom in here, let's see if I can zoom in here. Yeah, here you can see it. That is the absorption time. This bit only. Because we are charging so slow, the battery is already absorbed. Now look at this. We are hitting 3.65 and immediately the current drops very steep because the cell is already full. It's already absorbed. Yeah, and then at 31.4 amps, we actually stopped charging. This is considered the battery to be fully charged. And interesting is here at the beginning, if you look at this here, we had here 3.362 volts. And then the voltage actually went down, 3.35. Look at this. Went even further down here, 3.350. Crazy. Well, we have seen this before, that a cell during charging is actually dipping down in voltage and then coming back up again. And I'm not 100% sure how often this cell has been charged already. So I would guess this cell has not been charged 5 times yet. So anyway, we charged 1.5 kilowatt into this battery until it was full at 3.65 volts. This is 454 ampere hours. So the cell was roughly 25% charged. And this is usually what you get when you order batteries between 20 and 40%. I've seen everything in between. Bam! Okay, this is the official discharge curve now for the EVE MB56. Alright, the test will take about 16 hours now. We will see us again tomorrow morning at about 8-ish. It will take half of the week until we are done with this test here. Alright, anyway, you have a wonderful evening, night. Have a good night's sleep. And we see us tomorrow morning again. Bye-bye.
The next day.
Oh, yes, 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 yes. We are already done. Welcome back, my friends. It is now the next morning. We have fully discharged now the MB56 cell for the very first time. I'm really stoked. And this is how the curve looks like. And that's where we started. And then after already 6 ampere hours taken out of this battery, we are in the flat area of the curve, 3.29 volts. And then we stay flat for a long time. There's a bit of decline here, but then it gets flat again. And there's not much difference until 3.1. You're still at 3.18 volts here. And then some people stop discharging at 3.1 volts, which is around here. And then we have already discharged 651 ampere hours. This is already over the rated capacity of this 628 ampere hours this cell should have. So, and I'm usually discharging my batteries down to 3 volts because it's easier to remember. There we go. 656 ampere hours. And here with the test we went already further down into the very steep decline of the discharge curve, all the way down to 2.5 volts. And look at the result. 674.9 ampere hours, 675 ampere hours, almost 2.2 kilowatt hours. That is absolutely crazy. Average voltage during the discharge test was 3.23 volts. So we're getting roughly 7.5% more capacity in this cell as rated. Okay, my friends, we will now do a full charge test again, charging this battery all the way up to 3.65 volts, taking the curve, having a quick look, and then we want to do something very special. We want to compare this battery with the MB31. You will see. Okay, this test will take again 17 hours or so, so it will be tomorrow early morning, so I'll probably wait a bit until I start the test. Okay, my friends, and anyway, we will see us again tomorrow morning with the next installment of this video here. And then we have the result of the charge capacity and energy, as well as the charge curve then. Alright, until then, you have a wonderful day, a good night's sleep, and we see us tomorrow again. Crazy. This is like day 4 now, or 3, 4, 5, I don't know.
The next day.
683.2 ampere hours charged into the MB56 cell. Wow. But for some reason it didn't finish charging. Here, look at the curve. It is just at the beginning where it popped up, and the voltage shows 3.444 volts, which is not even correct. So when I click on continue, it should actually continue charging the battery. But it doesn't. Look at this. It completely disappears. Why is the USB of this computer faulty after only 15 years? But I believe the tester actually finished the test and charged the battery all the way up to 3.65 volts. And this is the true end result. 683 ampere hours. Look at the voltage, 3.36 volts. Yeah, this is normal resting voltage of the cell. Well, here in the software it still shows 3.444 volts. So I think the communication was somehow interrupted at this point, but the tester actually finished the test. So 683.2 ampere hours charged into the MB56 cell. Okay, so what I want to do is now open data. Okay, let's open the discharge curve again, because this was complete. There's our discharge curve. And let's compare this. Here, MB31 discharge curve. Well, comparing these two curves doesn't make much sense, right? Because the MB31 has only half of the capacity, or even less, than the MB56. So this doesn't tell us anything here. But what about if we parallel two MB31 cells, charge them all the way up, and do a full discharge test of these two parallel cells? So which one gives you more capacity? One MB56 cell or two MB31 cells in parallel? Okay, let me charge these two MB31 cells all the way up to 3.65 volts, and then we do a discharge test of this duo and see who's the winner. Yeah, unfortunately this will take another day or 1.5 days or so. So we will see us again tomorrow afternoon or Friday morning or something. I don't know. Doing these battery tests is ridiculous. I don't even know how I could put up with this when we tested all these batteries back in the day. This all takes forever. Okay, anyway, it has to be done. There's no other way. So you have a wonderful... Alright, see you then.
Much later.
I don't know exactly what's going on, but the software seems to be stuck at 2.999 volts again. The timer is still running, but this one has just stopped discharging. 2.5 volts, see? And there was no touchy of any cables this time. And the cutoff voltage is set to 2.5 volts, but it stopped at 2.999. I wonder why the timer is still running. See here, the connection is still running. Okay, let's open the MB56 discharge curve again. And at least we can see we have discharged the MB56 with 674.9 ampere hours, while we have discharged these two MB31 cells with only 645.7 ampere hours until we hit 2.5 volts. So this is like 29 ampere hours less what we get out of these twin pack of MB31 cells in comparison to the MB56. Equal 4.3% less capacity. But yeah, roughly 4% less energy in the MB31 double pack as in the MB56 cell. So that's the outcome of the week-long test I've did. And I have to tell you, this exact problem happened twice to me during this last week. And I was blaming the USB connection here of the computer. So I took this RS485 adapter apart And I found that the actual USB port here was a bit loose of the PCB inside. So it had like metal clamps around the PCB, and I resoldered all the connections from the USB port as well as this bracket. And now it's good again, and there was no loose connection when I wiggled it. So I'm not sure why the software actually stops after 15 hours and 41 minutes. It looks like it's not a computer or a connection issue. It seems like the tester itself stops communicating with the computer and then for some reason hangs and needs a restart. Damn it. And yeah, I have to apologize again for this unclean and disrupted discharge test. I don't know what's going on with this tester here, but yeah, at least we've got a clean discharge test of the MB56 cell, including the curves. Information is down below as well, and have a comparison capacity discharge result from the tester directly for 2 MB31 cells. So it's all good. We got the results to compare these two solutions. Anyway guys, it is what it is. Guys, so far the test of the EVE MB56 cell here and the quick comparison to 2 MB31 cells in parallel, which gives you around 4–4.5% less capacity. Alright my friends, let me know what you think about the EVE MB56 cell. Are you going to use such a cell to build a do-it-yourself battery with 16, 32, 33 kilowatt hours actually? Wow, that's one battery. 16S, 33 kilowatt hours. That is totally insane. We will see battery cases and do-it-yourself cases come out for this sort of battery very soon. I know Yishi Young is already working on it. I've seen prototypes and designs they are building right now. So I'm sure it won't take long until we see the first offers online. Yeah, so would you rather build 2 MB31 16S batteries and parallel them later on with 2 BMS, or build only one battery with MB56 cells and save 1 BMS and also a couple of bus bars? Yeah, let me know what you think. What are you going to do? If you build such a 16S battery with 280 Ah cells, this case is already very heavy and you need 4 persons to lift it up if it doesn't have wheels and you can move it around. But with MB56 cells, this is like 230–240 kilos. There's no way you can lift this up anymore. And even my engine hoist, my crane, would struggle with that, because 250 kilos is the maximum we can actually lift when it's fully extended. So I'm not sure if these cells are not a tick too large for the do-it-yourself market. It really looks more like for electric vehicles or utility storage solutions. But yeah, let me know down below. And I also think Hakadi will give you a discount code for their shop. So if you are in the market for cells, do-it-yourself cases, BMS, all kind of stuff, have a look at their store. I'll link all the information down below. As I said, I've never ordered from them before. I cannot give you any reviews or personal experience of that. So if you have ordered from them, please leave your comments down below as well. You can see I need a lot of input from the community. But this is what we do. We're all working together. Alright my friends. As always, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for all your amazing support. You are freaking amazing. And I would say until the next video where we do something completely different again. Yeah, until then, you stay charged, stay safe, and thanks again for watching. See you then. Bye bye.